Welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Teniola Tayo, the headlines. Britain's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, dies at the age of 96. The Department of State Services arrests Tukur Mamu, a negotiator between bandits and families of the kidnapped passengers of a Kaduna-bound train. The People's Democratic Party appointed Adolphus Wagwara as acting Board of Trustees chairman following the resignation of Walid Jibrin. Plus, Nigeria-Poland signed memorandum of cooperation on food security. That's News Round in view. The world is mourning as Britain's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, on Thursday passed on at the age of 96 after reigning for 70 years. She died at the age of 96 at her Scottish estate, where she had spent much of the summer. Our report chronicles her life and times.
Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, had a tenure that spanned post-war austerity, the transition from empire to Commonwealth, the end of the Cold War, and the UK's entry into and withdrawal from the European Union.
People, to increase life chances for the most disadvantaged, and to strengthen national defences.
She was born in Mayfair, London, as the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York. Her father acceded the throne in 1936 upon abdication of his brother, King Edward VIII, making Elizabeth the heir presumptive. When her father died in February 1952, Elizabeth became Queen Regent. At the age of 25, she reigned as a constitutional monarch through major political changes, such as troubles in Northern Ireland, the decolonisation of Africa, and the UK's accession to the European communities and withdrawal from the European Union. In 1953, she was crowned at Westminster Abbey in the first major televised international event, and sales of TV sets surged as people gathered in their front rooms to watch the ceremony. Her reign spanned 14 prime ministers, starting with Winston Churchill, born in 1874, and including Liz Truss, the country's new prime minister, born 101 years later in 1975, and appointed by the Queen earlier this week. She had also met with 14 US presidents. Her reign spanned 13 Nigerian presidents. She visited Nigeria twice between January and February of 1956, and in December of 2003 to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Years after she granted Nigeria her independence in 1960, though retained as head of state and Queen of Nigeria until 1963. In 1977, the Queen toured Britain and the Commonwealth for her Silver Jubilee, reiterating her vows of service. The celebration was a ray of light in a period of economic gloom, industrial decline, and a series of industrial disputes. The lowest point of her reign was in 1992, when her first son, Prince Charles, separated from his wife Diana following a tell-all book. Her second son, Prince Andrew, also separated from his wife, and her only daughter, Princess Anne, divorced her husband, while Windsor Castle was seriously damaged by fire. Then there was Diana's death in 1997. Things brightened again when the Golden Jubilee came along in 2002, and Britain once again showed their support for the monarchy. In 2012, the Queen once again toured every region of Britain ahead of a 4-day party marking her Diamond Jubilee, while other royals made visits across the Commonwealth. The monarch followed up with a starring role at the London Olympics, appearing alongside James Bond, actor Daniel Craig, at the opening ceremony. When the coronavirus struck in 2020, the Queen was forced into isolation, but she continued to carry out her engagements online. She braved through the passing of her beloved Prince Philip and his funeral in April 2021. Fears for her health grew later, after she spent a night in hospital out of an abundance of caution. Perhaps the last time the Queen was seen was at the celebration of her Platinum Jubilee in June this year, when she appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace for a few minutes and waved, much to the delight of the crowd. And after 70 years of service, Her Majesty, loved by Britons and around the world, passed away peacefully at her home in Balmoral Castle. Amarachi Ubani.
May she rest in peace. And back home and to security matters, as the Department of State Security Services has arrested a lead member of the negotiating team for the release of victims of the March 28 train attack in Kaduna State. Tukur Mamu. Mr. Mamu was arrested at the Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano State shortly after his arrival from Egypt.
Reliable information I got,
Tukur Mamu, the publisher of a Kaduna-based newspaper, Desert Herald, came to limelight in June this year when he was appointed a member of the federal government negotiating team for the release of the 62 victims of the March 28 train attack in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State. Before then, Tukur, who is also the spokesman for the Kaduna-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, has voiced his concerns on the rising insecurity in the northern region and has also been an advocate for the federal government to negotiate with the bandit groups, including terrorists.
As you can confirm from the interview of one of the adoptees, who is a medical doctor, he expressed, a very disturbing situation about the condition of most of them that are there, and even called on the federal government to act very fast so that their health condition will not deteriorate to a level that can consume their lives.
Mamu also believes that the war against banditry cannot be won through military might.
The victims of the train attack, though not all of them, 11 of them, were successfully rescued as a result of a series of engagements and dialogue with the abductors. It's a very, very difficult process, but it has been achieved at the end of the day. And that is to show you how the power of dialogue and engagement can succeed.
Between June and August this year, Tukur Mamu has been involved in the release of 39 out of the 62 kidnapped passengers, while 23 others are still in captivity. On August the 10th, he announced his withdrawal as a member of the negotiating team on the ground that the federal government was not forthcoming in the suggestions made by the committee. Mamu's arrest by Nigeria's Secret Service, the DSS, in Kano, is a new dimension in the efforts to get the remaining train victims released. Only time will tell how this plays out in the coming days.
Staying with security matters, this time the federal government insists the worst is over. According to the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, at a press conference in Abuja, says the President Muhammadu Buhari's order to crush terrorists is working.
The weight of the security situation in the country is enough to bring together key ministers in charge of security for this briefing. Heads of other security agencies are also in attendance. The Minister of Information, who is moderating the session alongside other ministers, gives an update on the efforts of the government to address the situation in the country.
We can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over, and peace and security are gradually returning to the land. Please don't misunderstand or misrepresent this assertion. We may still witness isolated cases of security challenges here and there, but it will not be on the scale that we've witnessed in the past.
This present administration is doing everything possible to ensure the safety and security of all citizens. I therefore urge all Nigerians to support the armed forces of Nigeria in its efforts towards ensuring the security to the nation.
Officers of the Federal Fire Service will not be accompanied by armed men who will not hesitate to shoot hoodlums and miscreants who attack them during rescue operations. The government is taking this action following reports of attacks on officers during operations.
Touts and hoodlums that attack firemen and damage their trucks and equipment at fire scenes. We are therefore putting together armed escorts to accompany firefighting trucks to fire scenes to deter such elements. And I'm warning them. I've been warning them. Please, if you have no business at fire scenes, don't get there. If you can't help us, don't obstruct us. If you attack us in our discharge of our responsibility as firemen, we will attack you very, very violently. We will shoot you.
According to the Minister of Police Affairs, about 30,000 constables have been recruited in the last 3 years. Meanwhile, efforts are underway to ensure the safe return of the remaining victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack.
In 2019, when Mr. President made his second coming, he gave the police the directive to recruit 10,000 police officers annually. This we have been doing, and since that time, from that time to date, we have recruited over 30,000 police constables.
What I can assure you is that the federal government is busy and is committed to ensuring that nobody will remain in captivity of anybody, whether they be, bandits, whether they be ritualists, whether they be kidnappers.
At this national security briefing, the ministers of Interior, Defense and Police Affairs read out the achievements of the agencies under their ministries. But for many Nigerians who have not felt the impact of security agencies, there's much left to be desired. Gilio Moyedi, Channels Television News.
And to politics now, the former Senate President Adolphus Wagwara has emerged the new chairman of the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party. His appointment follows the resignation of the former chairman, Walid Jibrin.
Critical decisions must be made by the People's Democratic Party, and members of the Board of Trustees are arriving at the party's National Secretariat in Abuja for a meeting, the first time after the party's convention. The meeting is to hold behind closed doors, and Mr. Walid Jibrin arrives to chair the gathering as chairman of the BOT. But no sooner had the meeting commenced than words about his resignation began to circulate, and a video of him announcing his resignation is also made available to journalists by some party members.
Me, Senator Walid Jibrin, I'm stepping down as the chairman of BOT, please. I'm stepping down to make things easier for all of us.
He is replaced by former President of the Senate, Mr. Adolphus Wagwara. As the BOT meeting ends, the party's National Executive Council meeting begins, and the national chairman, Mr. Iyorchia Ayu, chairs the meeting, which is attended by the party's presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President, Mr. Namadi Sambo, some present and past state governors, legislators, and other party stalwarts. The change of BOT leadership takes center stage as the meeting discusses unity.
This party is famous for settling all disagreements and going on to win elections in the past. This time is not an exception. I'm happy that the Nigerian people are interested in our party. We need to focus on the issues that worry the Nigerian people.
The acting BOT chairman, distinguished Senator Wagwara, in a big family, even in micro and small family, you have family issues. What is important is how those issues are resolved. And for us in PDP, we have the mechanism, and we are working towards resolving all of those issues soonest.
The victory of the party in the 2023 general election is also discussed as the PDP National Executive Council passes vote of confidence in the RU-led National Working Committee, despite the calls for his resignation.
Those in favor of the motion of a vote of confidence on the Negotiator RU-led National Working Committee, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
On his part, Mr. Atiku Abubakar says the PDP constitution must be respected by the party's members in resolving the crisis within the party.
As a political party, we have our constitution, we have our rules, we have our regulations. I want to urge that no matter the level of disagreements, our disagreements should be resolved within our constitution, within our rules, within our regulations, and within the precedents we have already set up for conflict resolution.
Senator Walid Jibrin has offered himself as a sacrificial lamb. But whether this will settle the crisis in the party is what we do not know for now. But perhaps time will tell. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
When News Round returns in just a moment, INEC speaks on election results management ahead of the 2023 polls. And thanks for staying with us. Conducting free, fair and credible elections in 2023 is a critical assignment, and that's coming from the helmsman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu gave the assurance at an election results management roundtable in Abuja.
The launch of the election result analysis dashboard by Yaga Africa is another milestone in efforts to make elections more transparent in Nigeria. The initiative, which has strong support from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and Channels Television, is inspired by the creation of the INEC Result Viewing Portal, the IREV. The INEC Result Viewing Portal was deployed in some of the recent off-season elections conducted in Ekiti and Osun State, and this roundtable offers the opportunity to review its performances and build public confidence in INEC's election results management capacity.
Public trust is essential for the deployment of electoral technology anywhere in the world, because the whole concept of electoral trust is not blind trust. INEC needs to invest in building confidence on the BVAS and the IREV portal, because it can impact on citizens' participation.
Electronic transmission of results is, of course, one of the most progressive provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. Nigerians can relate with these results because there are other processes. Now you can see it. That partnership with Channels Television helped to put this conversation about result transmission in a way that we have never seen in our country.
Over the years, the collection of results has been one of the weakest links in the election management process in Nigeria. However, the electoral umpire believes strongly that the new Electoral Act, which gives backing to the use of technology in the result management process, will help to build more confidence in the system.
We must remain several steps ahead of those who seek to undermine the system. And there are many bad guys in the field trying to undermine the system. But we stand for electoral justice. We'll make sure that the votes cast by Nigerians are protected and the only determinant of who becomes what in our democracy. I commend Yaga and Channels Television for taking this bold step. But I hope that you know that this is only the beginning. However, be assured that the Commission will remain your partner all the way.
INEC will for the first time in a general elections be deploying some of its recent technologies, including the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS and the INEC result viewing portal IREV in the 2023 general elections. The Commission is hoping that these innovations will help to scale up elections, transparency and credibility in the 2023 general elections.
And the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has been asked to sanction foreign airlines refusing to sell tickets in Naira. The Minister of Aviation, Mr. Hadi Sirika, said this at a briefing which held after the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja.
A good number of ministers, including the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, are physically present for the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. Operations in the nation's aviation sector came under focus. The aviation minister disclosed that investigations carried out revealed that foreign airlines are flouting domestic laws by selling tickets in dollars.
I want to use this opportunity to say that some of the airlines reports are reaching us that they are refusing to sell tickets in Naira. That is our violation of our laws, local laws. They will not be allowed. The high and the mighty amongst them will be sanctioned if they are caught doing that. NCAA had been directed to swing into action, and once we find any airline violating this, we will definitely deal with them.
He reiterates that efforts to float the national carrier Air Nigeria is on course. Contrary to reports that 16 billion naira has been spent on the carrier, he says that only 352 million naira has been approved for the transaction advisory service, while 299 million has been approved for engagement of consultancy. He explains that all amounts are yet to be disbursed.
Humanitarian.
Against the backdrop of allegations in some quarters that President Muhammadu Buhari nominated individuals believed to be card-carrying members of the APC as resident electoral commissioners of INEC, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, argues that the president will not withdraw their names based on what he calls media trial.
I don't think it is the business of the president to immediately throw out a nominee based on allegations which have not been proven. I think the whole idea is that these people will go for confirmation in the National Assembly. The same questions that they've been raised in public domain, they will be asked. I think this media trial is quite worrisome. Because even when these people are cleared of any wrongdoings, nobody comes back to apologize to them.
The Federal Executive Council also approved a national flood emergency preparedness and response plan in Nigeria to scale up response measures and mitigate the impact of flooding.
We call on all states and operational stakeholders to implement the plan so that we can return to normalcy and protect our national development.
The Council also approved the National Social Investment Program Establishment Bill 2022. The minister assures that the bill will give legal backing to the National Social Investment Program as an agency with a mandate of fulfilling the president's agenda to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty by 2023. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And finally, on News Round, Nigeria signed a memorandum of cooperation on agriculture with Poland. The agreement is the outcome of a meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and the Polish president, who was on a two-day official visit to Nigeria.
President Andrzej Duda is the first Polish head of state to embark on an official visit to Nigeria in the last 60 years. Received by President Muhammadu Buhari at the forecourt of the presidential villa, the Polish president, who is on a two-day visit, is warmly welcomed with a 21-gun salute before proceeding into a closed-door meeting. During the strategic meeting between the two leaders, which included dialogue between business leaders of the two countries, food and energy security was central as a memorandum of understanding on agriculture is signed to advance economic cooperation. After the hour-long meeting, President Buhari, who led the Polish president to a joint media conference, acknowledges the existing cooperation with Poland in the areas of defense, agriculture, maritime and education.
I wish to see this opportunity to commend the efforts of the government of Poland for the assistance provided to the large number of refugees fleeing the conflict in Ukraine, which included a significant number of Nigerians. Our cooperation in education has a long history, and we wish to encourage the extension of that cooperation to the sharing of knowledge and experience between our educational institutions in areas such as science and technology. As regards trade relations, we would like to see an increase in the level of trade, as it remains relatively low in spite of the long period of relations between our two countries.
In recent years, the Polish president, through an interpreter, states that Poland has taken delivery of LNG gas from Nigeria to Poland, and in the aftermath of the Russian war on Ukraine, which it describes as unjustified, Poland would like to ramp up gas supplies from Nigeria.
I also want to add that the first supplies of the LNG gas to our LNG gas terminal in Świnoujście from Nigeria have already happened, just like the import of crude oil performed by our oil company Lotos. Those shipments did happen in recent years, and that bodes well for the future because we do want to further develop this cooperation. We want to increase the supplies from Nigeria to Poland, and by this way we also want to contribute to the development of economic relations between both our countries.
At a later date, the two leaders indicate plans to further consolidate relations in the areas of defense through an MOU, as the Polish president hopes that the conversations will yield speedy and fruitful outcomes as it deepens investment in the country. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Oyetayo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.